Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to the eighth episode of PsyTalks with Teachers, and I'm your host, Ms. Shah, Director at ICHARS and ICHARS Support Foundation. And today we have with us Professor Tatpar Joshipura, who's going to talk about cognitive psychology. I would quickly like to introduce our organization, ICHARS, an organization dedicated to behavioral, emotional, and mental growth for individuals from all areas of the society through education, intervention, and guidance. Our institution is based on a solid value system of quality and philosophy of positive psychology. We believe that therapy is not about focusing on the weaknesses, but it is about helping people find and apply their strengths. So before I begin, I would also like to mention about our MHP challenge, which is Visit a Mental Health Practitioner or Professional Challenge, initiated by mental health practitioners, requesting people to seek help before it's late, or not shoving under the carpet. Just take it as in when it is required. I would also like to request everybody watching this to feel free to ask any kind of questions that you have in the comments section with respect to today's topic, which is cognitive psychology. And we have our expert in house, and they will surely make sure that we answer your questions, whatever you posted in the comment section. You can also start a watch party on Facebook so that your friends and family can benefit out of the session. So, a little bit about our guest today. He is a full-time faculty in psychology, teaching various papers of psychology at undergrad and postgrad level at St. Xavier's College, Ahmedabad. So, yeah, we have somebody who's come all the way up from out of Mumbai this time. And he has a doubles in masters, one in clinical psychology and other being in English literature. He's also done his MPhil in psychology and UGC net. He's been also done in his psychology. He's wrapping up with his PhD in psychology soon, so all the best for that, sir. And he's also teaching profession for more than 8 years now. So that's a nice time to get complete hangover of the subject. And all to you, sir. Just if you want to give your brief introduction, if I missed out on something, you want to talk about something, and then we can take up the questions.
Okay, I think you have mostly covered everything as such.
No.
Um,
Okay.
so you can begin with the questions.
Sure. So, since our subject is about cognitive psychology, how would you explain cognitive psychology in an introduction from your end?
Okay, so a very simple way to understand cognitive psychology would be that we are, let's say, mind. When mind tries to understand itself, what it is made of, what are its processes, that would be your cognitive psychology. And since we are having two terms here, which is one is cognitive and one is psychology. So cognition would involve mental processes and all that. And since
Mm-hmm.
psychology is here, we will always have a behavioral aspect to that. So how do mental processes, behavior, mind, your brain, all of these things, how are they interconnected? That would generally tell you about cognitive psychology.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
My next question would be about as a psychology student, or when you teach to the psychology student, how important it is to learn cognitive psychology as a subject.
Yeah. Um, specifically when I'm talking of psychology students, see, there are many things which are connected to cognition, which also impact behavior from the mental health perspective. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, there are a lot of issues related to memory, be it
Mm-hmm.
amnesia, forgetting, be it stress-induced difficulties with memory, be it issues with attention.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, these all would make more sense if you know about cognitive psychology. There would also
Okay.
be another aspect which I'd like to add is that when we say attention, attention is one of the things we study in cognitive psychology, and something which is somewhat prevalent but not so much researched about is ADHD in adults, attention
Mm-hmm.
deficit hyperactivity disorder. So if you want to know about attention, if you want to know about ADHD, it is imperative that you have your basics clear about cognitive psychology. So that will make more sense to you when you're reading about it. You're reading the research on that, trying
Mm-hmm.
to understand the how people with ADHD might behave, or what may be the difficulties that they may face.
Right.
So these kind of things, I would say, um, that would affect your knowledge as well.
Okay. So I heard you saying that, correct me if I'm wrong, that ADHD among adults.
Yeah,
Is that what can you throw some light on it? Because अभी तक जो भी सुना है ADHD हम सुनते हैं with children only.
yeah,
Uh, yeah. So with adults, can you just give us a brief as in what it is about? How do you recognize it and how it is worked upon? If you have an,
sure. Um, Actually, ma'am, personally, I'm doing one research on ADHD in adults, and
Okay.
this has fascinated me because I realized when in my college and all, where some students would come up and say, "I have ADHD from my schooling time and all," and I was thinking like, should we check whether or not is it still prevalent? Is it still affecting them? Because it was affecting some students' grades and all. So I realized and I worked on it, and you will see like ADHD itself is a neurodevelopmental disorder,
Right.
and there are two main aspects to that. So one is hyperactivity, and the other is inattention. So these are the two things. You might have both of them. So problems with attention and problems with hyperactivity. Hyperactivity would include stuff like restlessness, issues with impulse control.
Hmm.
On the other hand, inattention would be that difficulty in focusing, in concentration, especially voluntary focus attention on stuff which is important but not interesting enough.
Hmm.
So
Can
you
you
would
give an
see this.
example on that? Can you give
Yeah,
an
sure.
example of that?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So you would see this in young people some days. That I'll give you an example, like a recent example, which I
Mm-hmm.
kind of think it is related.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like students will not submit their assignments on time, even though
Mm-hmm.
they know the deadline about it. They know that it's not going to be accepted later. Now, if you ask some of them will say that they are not feeling it is interesting enough or it is stimulating enough. So
Mm-hmm.
they would rather do something which gives them stimulation now, in the here and now, which is instant gratification, and not the long term consequence of missing out on the assignment itself. So that is one way, like, so they would rather do the things which get their attention now easily, rather than stuff which is going to make them work a bit. Because if I want to sit down and do my homework or my assignment for 2 hours straight, I need a lot of willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things which you might see with people who have inattention or hyperactivity is that
Hmm.
they have willpower, but it is selective. So it is selective. They're able to apply it in certain things, but other things which you might expect from adults, but they will have a difficulty with it. So
Right.
very simple things, and people may get angry on them that why are you not focusing on this? Um, why aren't you able to do these very basic things? But if you don't understand yourself, then you might question yourself and get into the guilt, all that why am I not able to do this? So understanding yourself helps you in this way that okay, if ADHD is present or some symptoms which might be affecting my work or my studies, then I can look at how to cope with it, basically.
Right. Lovely. What would you think are the challenges? I think you've already started talking about the challenges the students face while studying cognitive psychology. What would be
Hmm.
the overall challenges you feel that the students face while studying cognitive psychology?
Mhm. So one of the things I can say is that cognitive psychology is not like your other fields of psychology, which talks about abnormal behavior and counseling and all that. It is a bit more technical,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have a different kind of viewpoint because it's talking of attention, memory, perception, all these things. There are certain technical terms. There are certain concepts which are not like behavioral concepts, but you would say cognitive concepts. So you need a different learning approach to that.
Mm-hmm.
So to get a conceptual clarity, and the other thing is like we may or may not know the best way to learn something. So, for example, if
Mm-hmm.
you are studying about counseling, the let's say the counselor and the client relationship, then when you read it on paper, it will make sense to you instantly.
Mm-hmm.
But if I tell you about attention, it will make not that much sense. But if I can show that to you in practical ways, then it will make more sense. So we have to, as students, I would suggest to link cognitive psychology with a more practical approach so you can see it in action and it will make sense to you.
Okay. So what do you think is the challenge they don't, what are the challenges as per, I mean, this is something that is a solution that you're offering, which is very good, but उस क्या challenge exactly क्या challenges आते हैं एक आध दो अगर
Okay,
because आप
so
पढ़ाते होंगे आप पढ़ाते हो
yes,
ना वो सब्जेक्ट को हाँ
so I'll talk about some unique challenges that I've seen Indian students face in the Indian context as far as cognitive psychology is concerned.
हम्म
Um, First off, there is not much material which is available in comparison with other subjects in our libraries or even perhaps in online stores and all. So, if I want to know more about cognitive psychology, I don't know who to approach. I don't know which are the good books and whether or not they are available in my college. So, that's one thing.
हम्म
The second thing is that since it is somewhat of a new subject, like
हम्म
when I was a student in the mid 2000s, this was not offered as a subject. I did not see it prevalent as a subject that much. So I have seen it occur since the last 10 years more. I would say not even 10 years, last like 5 to 8 years. So you might not even find that much Indian content for it. You might not find enough people who are knowledgeable on that. So that might also be there. Um, the other thing is um, you might not find that many researches compared to other researches like which you will find for mental health researches and all. You will find a lot of them. But if I say cognitive psychology, you will not find that many. The fourth thing I can think of is that um, this might be more of a field issue that people don't know how it is being applied even in your general field of psychology. You
okay
might not know what are the like what are the what would you say applications of it. So it might feel a bit disinteresting as a student that ये तो technical ज़्यादा है but इसका कुछ फायदा नहीं है. So what am I supposed to do with this? So that affects their interest in studying. So um, you will see generally students are very interested to study about child psychology or psychopathology, disorders and all. But if you tell them mental processes and all, so as a student and as a teacher, we have to sustain their attention. So if they are not interested, they will study it half-heartedly just a day or two before exams. And if you study that way, then obviously your application at the end as a professional also suffers. क्योंकि आपने वो इतने अच्छे से
right
पढ़ा नहीं था.
hmm.
So that might also be an issue, I would say.
Okay, yeah, great. So what would be the tips that you would give for them to when they have to prepare for the exams or they have to study besides what you said, applying it?
So, few things I can think about, ma'am. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things is that see, there are lot of different concepts which are, if you don't study it again and again, it will seem they're similar.
Mm-hmm.
So my first suggestion is always that you break it down into smaller units. So cognitive psychology itself teaches you that if I want to um, master something, I cannot master it in a day. I have to give
Mm-hmm.
effort, which is regular, and like we have memory and all that. So I want stuff to go into my long-term memory. That goes through practice. So you break down stuff which you can study. So let's say instead of a whole unit, I study just one point, and even in that one point, I just study a sub point for a day. But every day I'm studying one sub point, and I'm focusing on that. I give some time, I think over it, I try to find some relevant examples. Um, One of the other things is also that um, it shouldn't be just naturally as a student, it will be exam oriented. But if you can make it something like a fun activity or something, because cognitive psychology is not something where um, it's out there, it's everywhere around us. So even when we are on Facebook right now, you can see that they have used color schemes very differently. So red is for
Mm-hmm.
notification, Facebook itself is blue. So uh, there are reasons behind this. These reasons
Mm-hmm.
are found in cognitive psychology. So if I can link it and understand the concepts this way, so you can benefit more. And one of the other things, like this is just an anecdotal thing, not like I don't know if it's backed up by research or not, but I would say that we have this has been proved in research that we have a finite capacity to focus during the day. Like my peak performance, my peak concentration is limited. I cannot have 10 hours of focus every day. So I have to think, where do I devote my resources? So let's say I want to study for something, and like cognitive psychology at work, in Facebook and in social media and all this. So it's like, from the student's perspective, I'll try to say this. Um, so they have social media and these applications, they have refined cognitive psychology to the point that it's addictive. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be on social media and all, but you have to be very careful of your attention. So, um, if I have a project to finish today, I should not deplete my attentional resources first by going on social media, tiring myself, and then focusing on the assignment. I should first finish off the project and then go on social media. Maybe even make it like a reward punishment thing. If I don't do the project, I'll reduce my social media for today. So, something like this. This will help in general, because like this is something which I've applied in my life as well. So we were talking, and I don't use my Facebook account since the last 3 years. Now
Okay.
the reason is that it used to deplete my resources, and I would think about so many things. Okay, but if I can use that time somewhere else productively, so that brings a big change. So you have to think, you have to manage the resources that you have been given. So every day your brain kind of refreshes itself. um, so you have this much resources, so you have to think first, where are the resources required, and once that is done, you can focus on the other things, um,
Right.
which are not important sometimes.
Very well. It completely makes sense. So what do you think memory system would be? Which memory system would be more important for everyday life when we talk in terms of cognitive psychology?
Mhm. um, So, ma'am, like memory systems generally accepted ones, there are three, like sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory.
Mm-hmm.
Sensory memory is not even in seconds, it's in milliseconds. So around 100 to 200, 300 milliseconds. So hardly a glimpse. The next one is your short-term memory, which is longer than that, but around, I would say 20 seconds max. And the third one is your long-term memory.
Mm.
Now, we use all three of them simultaneously in our daily lives. So, if I'm driving a vehicle, I see the vehicles on the road, I see the distractions and everything. I'm noting down and I'm reacting at the same time. But
Right.
from one intersection to another, I'll not even remember sometimes what I saw in the previous intersection. So that's my
Right.
uh, sensory memory at work. Um, from a student's perspective, I would say um, we we think that we have learned something because we read it once. But that's a
Mm-hmm.
very common mistake that we make. That we think कि चलो अभी पढ़ लिया and for the next 20 minutes. So this happens in the lectures also, ma'am. In the lecture, if I ask people, have you understood this? They'll say yes, completely understood. But if I ask them the day afterwards, uh, they might even forget everything completely. Is forgotten. So they remember, sir, आप आए थे, but we forgot what you had taught us. So why
Haven't
is
we
this
all done
happening? Yeah.
that?
So that's
Yeah, you
where,
were
ma'am,
saying.
I'll say this that sometimes. So I was never a scholar kind of student, to be honest. Um, I had to voluntarily force myself to study, and it was very difficult. And few of my scholar friends, so I thought like I personally did not think they were so that much intelligent or smarter than me. But I realized the one thing which they were doing, which I was not doing, is daily rehearsals. You know, so they would go home. मेरे घर पे I would go home. I would put the bag in a place. सुबह वहीं से उठा के मैं निकलता था. And these people, the horror, I mean, they would open all the books, they would make notes out of it, and next day they would remember what was taught much more than I would have. So the revisions also before the exams, मेरा तो एक ही revision होगा, like hardly. They would have the third or the fourth revision. So when they sit for the question, they know exactly what they have to write. It's like ready to fire. And people like me would sometimes even get confused कि ये answer लिखना है कि ये answer लिखना है. So this would be the thing. So we should work on. This is like a conscious aspect that you have to do, and it is not easy to do every day. So rather than so here, I would say, ma'am, that when you're facing these kind of things, we should not look at it in a goal-based perspective, but more like a systems-based. So habit formation. Okay, no matter what happens, I'm spending 10 minutes to revise every day in my house what has occurred today in the college. Just these 10 minutes would be a big difference later on.
Right.
So we have to think where a goal-based approach ki I have to score these many marks in the exam tomorrow, ki system-based ki should I form a small habit which will have a big return on investment later on.
Right.
So this is something I
Very
can
well.
suggest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Lovely. So let me see. So what would be, how does learning cognitive psychology help students from non-psychology background?
Oh, there's lots of things. So if you have seen um, even on social media, for example, there are lots of people who are going into communication. We have students from the languages who go into communication field. We have people from economics who go into marketing and all these things.
Right.
So um, how is it that you will see there is a uniformity sometimes in the advertisements, in the even the aesthetics of a place. So if you go to a
Mm-hmm.
nice cafe, I can challenge you on this that you will never find a blue tube light in there. Blue जो हमारे घर पे जो ये regular वाली tube light होती है, you will never find that.
Mhm.
Now, as such, it's just light, but light affects our perception as well. That is
Right.
cognition, right? Um, if I have these yellow lights around me um, and somewhat dim yellow lights, it naturally creates a different ambience. This ambience affects your mood. So, as a customer, I like to go to a place which has a good ambience. Now, understanding this comes from your understanding of perception, which is cognition. I'll give you a few more examples. Um, so, like understanding, like let's say I want to work as a researcher in any of the fields. I'm even I would say working in an office job, right? So I can use, for example, these days we have lots of WhatsApp groups, WhatsApp messages throughout the day. I
Right.
mean, if I keep my internet on all the time, I would see that 24 hours I'm receiving some message, because even at night, when it is night here, 4 o'clock, in America, my cousin is still up and he sends some message. वो forward करते रहेगा. So there's going to be messages. Now, I have to understand that since attention, the ability to focus, all that gets affected. So I'll give you a small example, be it
Sure.
students or be it people who are working. If you're a working person or a student, you might have seen that sometimes it's difficult first to sit and work, but once you have sat for like 10-15 minutes, it's a breeze later on.
Hmm.
So this happens because your attention, which was thinking about other things, but you have been able to force it to come to a particular point and focus on that. But ये करने के लिए मैम, I should be away from the distractions. So if I'm trying to work on something where my WhatsApp is going off every 5 to 10 minutes, it would take me 2 hours, 3 hours. If I work on the same thing where I switch off everything or I mute everything which is not even in my attention span, मेरे आसपास भी मुझे दिखता नहीं है, and I work on the same thing, I may even finish it in half an hour. That's a
Right.
small difference, but over a period of time, it all accumulates.
Yeah.
So even if you are not into arts or anything, these are very basic life principles which we can apply from cognitive
Right.
psychology. Um, there are many more, man. Like if like you have a page on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
how to design something, like which use, um, like if I have an intro video, a trailer or something, so how many minutes? So we know that attention span is, short-term attention is not more than 20 seconds. If I
Right.
make a long boring trailer of 5 minutes, no one is going to watch it. If I make even a 20-second trailer, but within that we have everything compiled, people will watch that more.
Mhm.
So YouTube में आपके
Right.
क्लिक्स ज्यादा आएंगे एक में, और एक में आपके नहीं आएंगे. So that's simple.
Very well. Okay. I have one more question, which is as it relates to cognitive psychology, there are multiple types of intelligence, or just one unifying type of intelligence. What do you have to say on that? So, are there multiple type of intelligence, or just one unifying type of intelligence that is there in cognitive psychology?
Okay. Um, give me a moment, ma'am, to form my thoughts on this. Um,
Should let's please take your time.
so imagine, like there are different abilities to do stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I can do many activities. So from verbal activities to mathematics to
Hmm.
other things. Now I can give different tests for each. I can give a language test to see how much verbal ability do they have. I can give mathematical test. I can even give problem solving tests. So
Mm-hmm.
these are there. But if I give it to a large number of people, most people will score equal almost in all of these abilities. Their scores would be more or less uniform. So person A scores almost similar across these.
Mm.
So this similarity, you would say, is the general intelligence, which is your G factor.
Right.
And sometimes you will see people who are savants. Sometimes they may be on the autistic spectrum. Um, so what will happen is that one of their abilities is heightened. So they may be very good at playing music, even hearing just once, they'll be able to play it completely quite well. But the other abilities are not doing so well. So this might happen. So these are the two ways of looking at it. But generally, when we say the G factor, which is connected to IQ, your
Right.
overall IQ, let me say, uh, I would suggest this that it's good to have your IQ test done once at least, and especially in
Mm-hmm.
your student life. So
Right.
because there are things that I might aspire to, but
Mm-hmm.
it might be above, below, or equal to my IQ level. I don't know. Like
Okay.
I am a
Right.
professor of psychology. I can force myself to study nuclear physics, but I'm sure even now I can tell you, मुझे समझ ही नहीं आएगा आधी चीज. No matter how hard I try. So it's not just the aptitude, but there are things which are above my level which I will not understand. There are also things below my level. So you ideally don't want to go below because you'll be too bored. It's too easy. I've quit a few jobs before I came into the education field because they were too boring. 9 to 5 job, but I could finish it in 2 hours. फिर पूरा दिन boring मतलब ये तो boring काम है. Education I joined because it's interesting and it's, dynamic. So you have to see where your level is and try to be at the end of your IQ distribution. मतलब it should be somewhat challenging. इतना भी challenging नहीं कि आप हर बार fail जा रहे हो. But yeah, 10% of the times it's okay to have failure. So that's how you will learn. It shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be too easy,
Right.
where you're constantly getting bored and you feel like there's no purpose, there's no satisfaction from the job. So that's what I think I'll have to say about intelligence and these. I actually went
Sure.
ahead and talked about the job and all that. It's fine.
No, no, it's absolutely important to share personal experience because we learn a lot from there, and that's how we can make other people also understand. So there is a question, sir, from one of the viewers, and I don't know whether it's a question, but he's stating that Gardner has given the concept of 8 type of intelligence. So,
Mhm.
and that person is Papari Das. Now, Das, Mr. Das, if you could just, are you trying to ask any question or you're just stating it? So please let us know if there's a question, then we can take it up. Uh,
Yeah,
so
Gardner
he's
has
talking
given
about,
this.
yes, 8 types of
Mhm.
intelligence that he's
Mhm.
talking about.
Mhm.
Uh,
That is there, man. Yeah.
oh, okay. So would you like to give it, just explain what it is about, what 8 type of intelligence it is?
Yeah. So um, I'll try to recall the best of my ability. So
Sure.
this is not G factor, if I can remember correctly. G factor theory is different. This is Gardner's theory of intelligence, and so okay, I'll speak about this from the perspective of the field. Um, there is I think, um, some differences between people in the field, whether there is a G factor. So should we say, overall intelligence, or should we say look at the different intelligences? So from what I have read, it's not that much a question of either or, but both. So like I talked about IQ, I should look at the general factor. At the same time, let's say I have a better verbal ability than others. So that's a very specific thing. Now, five of my friends might have similar IQ. We might have similar IQ, but our abilities would be different. So let's say one of us has very high verbal ability, the ability to articulate stuff, the ability to write stuff down, the ability to make things, difficult things simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
While we speak or while we write, then um, we cannot say the same. Let's say this person goes into a job where this ability is utilized quite well. This is going to be different from someone with the same IQ level who applies for the same jobs, who even gets in, but then they realize that their ability to articulate is nowhere near close to the other person. So they'll have to
Right.
see where else do their capacities lie. And as far as capacity goes, uh, it's definitely a plus point to know early on where my capacities lie and also where my weaknesses lie, like in general,
Mm-hmm.
and make decisions based on that rather than um, going through life and not understanding that um, why failure is so rampant with me, but मेरे जैसे दूसरे लोगों के साथ ये नहीं हो रहा. So it will help us if we are able to find out these informations about ourselves.
Very well. So there's one more question that I have is what would be the more effective way to develop skills to be able to simplify complex information?
Mhm. Uh, so, what would be the way to make information which is complex simple for myself?
Yeah.
Okay. So, ma'am, for this, I'll try to suggest a few things.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things is that you should be able to write the stuff that you are thinking. So, think about this. I mean, the viewers can also think about this for a moment. Let's say I'm thinking about some issue which is close to me, and I'm worried about it and all. I
Mm-hmm.
know my mind is running in different directions, but it's important that I should be able to um, write on this. So these days, what happens is um, maybe because of the technology and all, but um, we have we are not writing as much through the hand as earlier.
Right.
But it's
Absolutely.
important because when I sit down to write, I focus my mind on that. I focus my energies. I focus my attention on that very particular issue. And once I write it, it's in front of me. So that's the other thing that um, even though I might think that I have understood it, there's very little to guarantee that. So
Okay.
it would be better if you can see the information. It might be visual, like you have written it in a piece of paper. It might be simple as small reminders to yourself to remember these things. Um, and I would say the second thing to make things simple, um, this we should encourage that you read more and read more stuff written by people who are highly intelligent, because
Okay.
a lot of the things that they have done is they have formed the thoughts about very complex things into very simple forms. So
Mm-hmm.
if you
Interesting.
read, let's say Friedrich Nietzsche, for example,
Mm.
um, even one line of his would contain so many things that you cannot escape that line quite soon. You will take 10, 15 minutes just to read and understand and reflect about yourself with that line.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very complex idea. Like a tweet, he would have written it, but it would make sense so much later on. So there
Right.
are people in I guess every field who have tried to make stuff simpler for others, or if they have been able to articulate something which is very complex into a very simple way. So we need to find who these people are. We need to find what have they written and access that information. So that helps. Um, Third thing which I would say is that um, like uh, is although we have this online interaction, even we are taking online lectures and all, we keep um, lectures live once in a while to have a question and answer session, just like this one.
Mm-hmm.
So the positive aspect about this is that if someone who knows a little bit more than you, if you talk to them and then
Mm-hmm.
listen to their input, you will get to know much more. So I would say, and since we have the benefit of internet and everything, try to find experts with different viewpoints. Let's say 2 to 3 experts on a particular issue, and see
Right.
if you can find a YouTube video or a podcast or book or any internet material like PDF or something which they might have prepared. Because what I have seen in my life is that people who are experts, they generally will try to um, bene- to be of benefit to others. They'll publish their work in all
Yes.
these different formats. So because of the internet, things which we could not even access earlier, it's at our
Mm.
fingertips. So that's also something which I can suggest. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I think.
That's a lovely suggestions from your end. So one last question before I think we are almost coming to an end. What are the different type of memory systems you would say in the long-term memory?
Mhm. So in the long-term memory, ma'am, we have the explicit memory and the implicit memory. Explicit memory is also called the declarative memory. Implicit memory is I forgot, non-declarative. So implicit memory is knowing how about different things, whereas explicit memory is what about the things. So within that, let's say implicit, you have skills. Um, let's say I know how to drive, but
Mm-hmm.
if I try to speak as I drive, I would not be as great because it's running by
Okay.
itself. It's an
Mm-hmm.
automatic process. So in Hindi, there is a word which we say "grahan kar liya usko." So we have actually internalized this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the next thing would be like your condition responses. So one
Mm-hmm.
example for this, if you have seen any person who is into sports or martial arts, if they
Yeah.
have been in this for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
so these responses become like a reflex for them.
Yeah.
So if let's say me and Virat Kohli are both falling from the stairs, I'm sure Virat would have a much better balance of how to land than me because he keeps playing much more on falling on the ground and all that.
Okay.
Um, Next, ma'am, if I talk about the explicit memory, here we have two types. One is the episodic memory, and the other is semantic memory.
Right.
So, episodic memory is about the events, just like episode. So, event around about that event, something, other thing, these are the people and all. The other one is the semantic memory, so language. So, when I'm speaking right now, um, it's an automatic process. You learn these things, but it's automatic. And there is an interesting this thing like um, the things we consume also affects our memory.
Right.
So, for example, you will see people who have issues with alcohol. So sometimes they'll do something while they were drunk, which they'll forget afterwards. But again, if they are drunk, they'll remember that they did something.
Yeah.
So uh, in long-term memory, there are different things like this. So generally speaking, I would say this is long-term memory from what I know.
Very well. Definitely. So one last question, sir, before we wrap it up for the day would be what would be your one message for young budding psychologists or psychology
Mhm.
students that you would like to
Mhm.
give?
Mhm. Um, my one message would be, ma'am, to think for yourself and don't leave stuff at the superficial level. If someone tells you कि ये ऐसा है, then obviously even if I tell them, I would say I'm your professor, I'm saying so, but still they can go and verify by themselves. So
Right.
always develop this habit of verifying stuff on your own. So you know the authority is also right or wrong. You learn different things, and in trying to search for one thing, usually this happens that you learn 10 more things, which helps.
Yes, definitely.
So that's one thing I can definitely tell people.
Lovely. So yeah, we are almost at the about to wrap it up. I don't see that there are much questions that are there. People have just stated what is whatever you said and about the Gardner theory and about metacognition and uh, so that's there. But thank you so much for coming for this episode and thank you for sharing your knowledge and your understanding and your giving us your time. And yeah, thank you everybody who's been all there on the Facebook Live for being there available and asking some of the questions. I have not received much questions today, but I think I'm assuming that people are very much aware about the topic then. Okay. And I'm going to see you guys. So we are done with the day today. And thank you once again, everybody who's been watching. Thank you, Professor Joshipura. And I'm going to see you all on next Friday, wherein same time, which is 7:30 on Friday, with a topic which is forensic psychology, and we are going to have another expert in house who's going to talk about that subject and how important that is for a psychology student or a practitioner to understand, or somebody who's aspiring to become a forensic psychologist or get into the field of it. So have a lovely weekend, everybody. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, Professor. And
Thank you so much.
yes, it's time to go offline and take care.